I'm Daley Giacopella, and my co-host is Sadie Bruni, and this is episode 29. We've got some great material about Connie Francis. You know, all those hits. But today we're going beyond the music, ready to unpack her adventures in Hollywood.
She really wasn't just singing. She was in films, too, mostly when her singing career was really big.
So before we get to the movies, help us understand her early life. Born Concetta Rosa Maria Franconero. What a name.
Yeah, changing it to Connie Francis was Arthur Godfrey's idea. From Talent Scouts, she was on that show young, and he thought the new name would appeal to more people. It made sense back then.
The power of a good name change. But even before that, she was already kind of in Hollywood.
True, way back in the 50s, before she was famous. She was a singing voice for some actresses in movies. Imagine that. Tuesday Weld and Frida Holloway lip-syncing to Connie's voice.
Seriously. Which movies were those?
Rock, and Jamboree. Kind of foreshadowing her later movie career, don't you think?
Yeah, almost like she was getting the feel for Hollywood behind the scenes. And speaking of Hollywood, we got to talk about Where the Boys Are. That movie is so famous.
Totally. Not just her first acting role, but she sang the title song, too, the one that became the spring break anthem. Fort Lauderdale probably thanks her for that.
Her dad, George Franconero, seems to have really wanted her to act. Do you think he saw it as a way to boost her singing career, which was already huge?
I mean, he was a big part of her career, that's for sure. I think he saw potential. Back then, singers becoming actors wasn't weird. Especially with musicals and those teen movies, seemed natural for a star like her.
Please like, subscribe, turn on notifications, and watch our shorts videos and other podcasts on Italian Americans in Hollywood.
It's wild how one movie changed things that much. We've all seen those pictures of Fort Lauderdale packed with spring breakers.
From a quiet town to the ultimate party spot, Connie Francis. Maybe she didn't plan it, but she played a role in that.
That's pop culture, isn't it? Shows what we want, and then makes us want it more.
Makes you wonder if those college kids even knew about the movie's impact, or if they were just having fun. It's like the movie caused more spring break crowds, and on and on. She was in other movies. But for a lot of people, Angie, Where the Boys Are is the Connie Francis they see. That girl next door. Very easy to relate to.
But get this, and it's something our listener pointed out. Even though she starred in a hit movie, Connie Francis wasn't really comfortable acting. Music always came first.
Her heart was in music, for sure. That's where she really shined. But maybe she didn't connect with that style of acting? Or those types of roles?
Makes you think, what if she loved acting as much as music? Could she have been a big movie star, done different types of movies, maybe serious ones?
Who knows? But she definitely chose music. And that's what she's known for.
It's cool that she stuck with what she loved, even with Hollywood right there.
Takes knowing yourself to see what you really want
And
and to go after it, even when other things look tempting.
let's be honest, Hollywood is tempting, especially back then. Connie Francis stuck to her thing, music, it was her first love, and it's what made her career.
Good reminder for everyone.
Right.
Be yourself. Don't just do what people expect or what seems like the right thing. Sometimes the best path is the one you love. Please like, subscribe, turn on notifications, and watch our short videos and other podcasts on Italian Americans in Hollywood.
Yeah.
So she was in movies, but was she a good actress?
Well, that's interesting because even though she was in some films, she never thought she was a natural actress. Actually, she said she often felt kind of awkward in Hollywood.
Interesting. Because she had a lot of charm on screen. People loved watching her.
I know, but for her, acting was more about her music, another way to sing and connect with fans. She never really went after acting the way she went after music.
Maybe that's why she never really became part of Hollywood. Her priority was always music.
Probably right. She seemed happy with roles that helped her singing and let her be America's sweetheart.
I like that she stayed true to herself and what she loved, even in all that Hollywood glamour.
Says a lot about her. She knew who she was and what she wanted to do. It shows that success isn't always about taking every chance you get, but finding what really makes you happy and fulfilled.
And for Connie Francis, that was definitely her music. She was in movies, but her real legacy is music.
It's true. Those films especially, Where the Boys Are, mean a lot to people.
And they helped make her more than a singer. She became a cultural icon.
She really did make an impact on both music and Hollywood. That's impressive. Her story shows how talent and opportunity and family can all come together.
One thing to remember is that even though she did well in Hollywood, her first love was always music. Please like, subscribe, turn on notifications, and watch our shorts videos and other podcasts on Italian Americans in Hollywood.
Yeah.
We talked about how she wasn't super comfortable acting,
Yeah.
but she still got some big roles. Let's talk about those a bit more.
Okay, sure. Besides Where the Boys Are, she was in Follow the Boys in 1963 and Looking for Love in 1964.
Those movies were all for young people. Smart move since she was so popular with teenagers.
Right. They used her image as this wholesome teen idol that everyone could relate to, really strengthened her connection with that generation.
The movies weren't like super critically acclaimed or anything, but they did well at the box office. Maybe that tells you what people wanted back then.
Exactly. They weren't trying to win awards, just to entertain. And they did. They were light and fun, perfect for the 1960s when everyone was so young and energetic.
And of course, they all had her singing in them, which is what people really wanted to see.
Of course. They worked her music right into the story. So you got the story and the music all at once.
It's funny how those movies, they weren't groundbreaking or anything, but they still captured that moment in time. They show what was happening culturally back then.
They're like a snapshot of the 60s. You can see the fashion, the music, the way people interacted. They're more than just movies. They're pieces of history.
And Connie Francis, even though she wasn't sure about acting, she helped bring those stories to life.
That she did. And even though she didn't think of herself as a serious actress, she had this genuineness and charm that people loved.
She may not have been passionate about acting, but what she did in Hollywood matters.
I agree. Those films even now show us what it was like back then and remind us how big an impact she had.
Please like, subscribe, turn on notifications, and watch our shorts, videos, and other podcasts on Italian Americans in Hollywood.
For sure.
Her time in Hollywood especially, Where the Boys Are, really made a difference. That movie became a cultural phenomenon.
It really did. It captured what it felt like to be young in the early 60s, optimistic about the future, and wanting change. And Connie, with her good girl image and catchy tunes, was like the face of that whole era.
Yeah, she was America's sweetheart. And Where the Boys Are solidified that movie. It's all about love and friendship and young people having adventures. People loved it, young people especially.
Definitely. Before the film, Fort Lauderdale was just this quiet little beach town. After Where the Boys Are came out, it was spring break central. College students went crazy for it, all because of the sun, the beach, and the promise of a good time, just like in the movie.
One movie changed the identity of a whole town. That's something.
That's how powerful pop culture is. It shapes how we see things and what we do.
And Connie Francis, with that lead role and singing that title song, she was right at the center of it all.
Absolutely. She became the face of Fort Lauderdale's transformation into a spring break destination. Her image, her music, the vibe of the movie, all of it led to the town's new identity.
That's a pretty big legacy.
Yeah.
Way beyond just music.
You can say that again. It shows how entertainment can have a ripple effect. It doesn't just affect individuals, it changes whole communities and how we see the world.
So even though Connie Francis was most at home on stage, singing her heart at her time in Hollywood, especially in America on the first, Where the Boys Are, added something really special to her story, and it still resonates today.
It sure does. She might not have been a permanent fixture in Hollywood, but being on the big screen, especially in the Hollywood, Where the Boys Are left a mark that's as strong and unforgettable as her music.
Please like, subscribe, turn on notifications, and watch our shorts, videos, and other podcasts on Italian Americans in Hollywood.
Okay.
So we talked about her early movies. I'm curious about later on. Did she keep acting, or did she leave Hollywood?
Good question. After Looking for Love in 1964, she basically stopped acting in movies.
Why do you think? Was it because she didn't really love acting? Or was it something else? Maybe she just got too busy with her music.
It was probably a bunch of things. Her real love was always music. And by the mid-60s, Hollywood was changing. The teen idol thing was fading away. And the British invasion was happening. People were listening to different music. And that changed movies, too. American artists had to adapt. And for Connie, maybe adapting meant sticking to what she was best at.
So it was a mix of what she wanted and how the industry was changing.
Right. She probably realized that those kinds of roles weren't right for her anymore. And it made sense to focus on what she loved most, singing.
It takes guts to walk away from something when it's not working for you. Even something as glamorous as Hollywood.
I admire that about her. She didn't get lost in the fame or feel like she had to keep up with the trends. She decided to focus on her passion and her own well-being. She knew what she wanted, and she went after it.
That's a good lesson for anyone, not just in entertainment. It reminds us that success isn't always about going after everything, but about figuring out what fits with who you are and what you really want in the long run.
You got it. And for Connie Francis, that path led right back to music.
Back to her roots. where she kept doing well and connecting with people through her singing.
And even though she stopped acting, her music was still in movies and TV shows. Her songs were everywhere, like part of the soundtrack of our lives.
That's so true. I've definitely heard her songs in movies and shows. They use them to make you feel nostalgic for the 50s and 60s.
Her connection to Hollywood was still there, even when she wasn't actually in the movies.
Music has such power. It lasts for generations and brings back feelings even decades later.
It's one of the most powerful art forms. And Connie Francis, she had that power in both her music and her movies, even though her movie career wasn't that long. It's too bad she didn't do more movies. She had a really unique presence on screen.
Yeah, she did. That girl next door charm that people loved, especially young people. But her personal life took a turn. The listener sent us some stuff about the attack in '74. It's a tough topic, but it's part of her story.
Yeah, it was awful. Really affected her life and her career. I can't imagine how hard it was for her to deal with the trauma and everything.
It's amazing that she was able to perform again eventually.
Shows how strong she was. To come back from that, both physically and mentally, couldn't have been easy. The attack really affected her mental health.
Trauma stays with you. It doesn't just disappear.
You're right. It can take years or even a lifetime to heal. For Connie, it definitely made it hard for her to perform and even just be around people.
But she found a way to get back on stage.
And when she did, her fans were so supportive. They saw how brave she was, and they were there for her.
It's great to see how music and her connection with fans helped her through that. Music can be so healing.
For both the musician and the people listening. For Connie, it seems sharing her music and connecting with the audience was a big part of how she got better. It helped her find her voice again and feel strong.
She also used her fame to talk about violence and make people more aware of it.
She took her pain and made it into something positive. She spoke up for other victims. She talked about what happened to her and helped people understand that it's okay to ask for help and support.
Being that open and sharing her story must have helped so many people. It shows us that even when terrible things happen, we can still find strength and use those experiences to help others.
Connie Francis's story is all about talent and resilience and how strong the human spirit is. She faced so many challenges, but never gave up. She kept sharing her gift of music and used her position to advocate for others. Right.
Her story reminds us that even the biggest stars can go through dark times, but with support and strength, they can come out the other side. Let's talk about something else interesting about Connie Francis. She could sing in so many different languages.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. She recorded songs in Italian, Spanish, German, French, Hebrew, Japanese, and probably even more.
Wow, that's a lot. How does she do that? Especially since she didn't speak all those languages fluently.
It shows how dedicated she was and how well she could learn just by hearing the sounds. She worked with language coaches to make sure her pronunciation was right, and she could really express the meaning and emotion of the words.
It must have been a lot of work.
Yeah. But for Connie, it was more than just work. It was a way to connect with fans from all over the world in a way that felt real.
And it worked. She was really successful internationally, especially in Europe and Asia.
Recording in other languages helped her break down barriers and share her music with more people. It was something different that not many other American singers were doing back then.
It also shows that music is universal. Yeah. Some emotions and ideas go beyond words. And Connie, with all those different recordings, she tapped into that.
Well put. And her decision to sing in other languages wasn't just for her career. It was also because of how she grew up.
Her Italian heritage was a big part of her music and why people all over the world loved her.
For sure. She was proud of her roots and wanted to share them with everyone. And those Italian albums, they weren't just some gimmick. They were real expressions of where she came from.
Seems she really got how important it is to connect with people on a cultural level.
She did. And she used her music to bring cultures together, celebrate what makes us different, and remind us that deep down we're all more similar than we think.
So her singing in all those languages wasn't just about talent. It was about passion and connection and really appreciating how rich different cultures are.
That's really beautiful. But let's go back to Hollywood for a sec. She might have stopped acting, but her music was still in the movies.
You're right. Even though she wasn't on screen anymore, lots of movies and TV shows were using her songs, usually to create a certain feeling or remind you of a certain time.
Her music never gets old. It works so well in stories.
Her voice, the melodies, the things she sang about, it's like they take you to a different time and place.
It's interesting how some songs become so familiar that you hear them, and you instantly get a feeling or a picture in your head.
That's music's power. It stays with you and shapes how we all understand certain times or emotions.
And Connie Francis's music. It's got this innocence and romance and a little bit of sadness. It's become like the sound of a certain era.
Her songs often make you think of the 50s and 60s, the time when young people had so much energy and believed in love. And there's this feeling of hope that still resonates with people today. It reminds you of simpler times, or at least times that seemed simpler.
Maybe. And in a world that feels so crazy and complicated sometimes, that feeling of nostalgia is really comforting.
No wonder people still love her songs, even though they came out so long ago.
Her music speaks to emotions and experiences that everyone goes through no matter how old they are.
It shows how talented she was and how she made music that lasts.
Totally. And it reminds us that great music can transport us, it can heal us, and it can connect us, even across time and different cultures.
Please like, subscribe, turn on notifications, and watch our shorts videos and other podcasts on Italian Americans in Hollywood.
Okay.
It's incredible how even after going through something so terrible, Connie Francis kept performing and helping others.
She was so resilient. She didn't let the bad things that happened to her take over. She used them to fuel her passion for music and her desire to make the world a better place.
It's inspiring to see how she turned her pain into something good.
It shows how strong she was and how much she believed in the power of the human spirit to overcome anything. She didn't hide from her struggles. She faced them head on and used them to make herself and others stronger.
That's an important lesson for everyone. Whatever challenges we face, we can choose to let them control us, or we can use them to grow and change for the better.
I agree, and Connie Francis's life is a great example of that. She could have easily given in to anger or sadness, but instead, she chose to focus on healing, being creative, and helping others.
Her story is a reminder that even when things seem impossible, there's always hope. And there's always a way to find meaning and purpose.
It's a powerful message that means a lot to people who have been through tough times and came out stronger. And it's especially important today when there's so much negativity and uncertainty in the world.
Connie Francis's life shows us that even when things are dark, there's still light. It reminds us that being strong, having compassion, and following our passions can help us get through anything.
Well said. And it shows that real strength isn't about never having problems. It's about how we rise above them and find the good in ourselves and in the world. You got it?
Connie Francis was more than just a singer or an actress. She was a cultural icon who touched so many lives.
She was a trailblazer. She paved the way for women in music, and she used her platform to fight for change.
People still feel her influence today. Not just through her music, which never gets old, but through her courage and her spirit.
She left behind a legacy of strength, compassion, and the ability of the human spirit to overcome anything.
That's a legacy worth celebrating, not just because of her music, but because of the strength, compassion, and grace she showed throughout her life. But before we finish talking about Connie Francis's amazing journey, there's one more thing I want to touch on. Her time in television.
Oh yeah, that's an important part of her story that we haven't gotten to yet. Her movie career wasn't super long, but she was on TV a lot, variety show specials, and even her own shows.
It all started with those talent shows, especially Arthur Godfrey's Talent Scouts. That's what launched her career.
Those early appearances gave her a chance to be seen by a lot of people and get good at performing in front of a live audience.
And she quickly became a favorite on the variety show circuit, performing with some of the biggest stars in entertainment.
She was on stage with legends like Ed Sullivan, Perry Como, and Dean Martin. It showed how versatile she was and how well she could connect with all kinds of audiences.
Imagine her in that world, holding her own with those huge stars.
It shows how talented and charismatic she was. She wasn't scared of the spotlight or the big names. She was excited to share her music with the world.
And she didn't just appear on other people's shows. She had her own shows too, like a summer replacement series for the Red Skelton Show. That was a big deal.
It proved she was more than just a singer. She was a true entertainer. She had this energy on stage that drew people in, and she was really good at connecting with viewers.
Being on TV let her show different sides of herself. Her humor, her quick wit, her ability to just talk and be funny without a script.
It reminds us that she wasn't just a voice. She was this dynamic performer who could do all kinds of things and keep audiences entertained no matter what. Being on TV helped her reach even more people. Everyone across America knew her name.
Yeah, TV back then, especially those variety shows were huge. Connie Francis was on all the time, so she became like a friend everyone invited into their homes.
Makes sense. It's interesting how TV, along with her music and movies, all came together to create her image and legacy.
For sure. TV played a big role. It helped her get more fans, showed how talented she was, and made her part of the cultural landscape of the 50s and 60s.
Absolutely.
So even though people mostly remember her for her hit songs and Where the Boys Are In, her time on TV shouldn't be forgotten.
It was a big part of her journey. It helped her succeed, shaped how people saw her, and made a lasting impact on the entertainment world. Shows how she could adapt and connect with people no matter where they were watching.
Her TV appearances are like a window into how entertainment used to be, when variety shows were king and people like Connie Francis brought joy and laughter into everyone's living rooms.
And those appearances, you can still find them in archives and online. They let us go back to that time and see how talented she really was.
So we've come to the end of our look at Connie Francis's incredible career. And it's clear her impact goes way beyond just music and entertainment. She was a pioneer for women in the industry, a survivor who overcame so much, and someone who cared about others and used her platform to make things better. She was a complicated and fascinating person whose life had amazing highs and really tough lows. Her story reminds us that even those who seem to have it all, the fame, the money, the fans, can still go through a lot of pain and struggle.
But it's also a story about being strong, about finding the will to keep going when things are hard, and about using what you have to make a difference. Connie Francis's legacy is proof that we humans can overcome challenges, create beautiful things, and give each other hope. It's a legacy that deserves to be remembered and celebrated, not just for her music, but for the strength, compassion, and grace she showed throughout her life.
That's a great way to put it. And as we wrap up our exploration of Connie Francis, I think it's a good time to leave our listeners with something to think about. What part of Connie Francis's story speaks to you the most, and why? Please like, subscribe, turn on notifications, and watch our shorts videos and other podcasts on Italian Americans in Hollywood.